Momentum traders have been shocked at the rapid change in trading conditions this week. We saw a huge drop off in the signal strength in one whole day, which is one day a massive drop. The momentum profile has moved back significantly in towards that midline. The question in front of us is not what happened behind us, it's what we do from here. It's how we change our entries. It's what we do with our existing positions and how we manage them differently given this sudden change. So we need a bit of a framework to guide us through. And the person that we go to in a time of crisis like this is a momentum trading expert, Gary Glover from Novus Capital. How are you?
Oh, great. It's a great wrap. It's funny. We can't, actually, the only thing I say, that slide you sent me about the momentum rate just falling off the cliff. It's funny because I felt like, it literally felt like during the week that someone had put a hole in the tire of the market. It's like the air was let out of the tire. I sort of felt like just all of a sudden it just stopped because the market had been on fire. We were seeing stuff move hard and fast. And then the first 2 or 3 days this week, I was just like, oh, nothing's moving here. And we're starting to see a few things, saw JB Hi-Fi, Wesfarmers get whacked. Just a few stocks were getting the wind taken out of them. And just seemed like nothing was really, not too many were sort of really firing up here. So I know, I just kind of felt, wow, this feels like the momentum has just disappeared.
Not with the wind, you suddenly...
It's like if you just
just holds.
Yeah. But, it does happen. I guess that's the, you just got to tighten up here. And it's funny, I was discussing sort of stops during the week with a few traders and stuff there about, because everyone's got different methods. And if you are giving yourself a bit more room to be right, when it does drop off, like, gold was off 10% there. And if you're trying to, all of a sudden overnight, your position's down 10%, that's a fair giving.
I tried to climb back from that one.
Yeah. So it's, it's the rules around taking some off the top, trying to sell some of the heat, trying to trail some, but yeah, I mean, you don't have a mechanism to catch that big move, but then it peels off at the, if it can crunch as well, you've got to be careful of that as well. But that's, I think those, when you do get those big moves off the top there, that's definitely a warning there. We've seen that already. I think I mentioned to you, we're seeing so many classic omens in the market as well. Like the one thing, don't want to repeat myself here, but one of the biggest reasons people lose the most amount of money in the market is thinking that it's going to be different this time,
And that like,
yeah. But we're seeing, we saw it with gold, like literally, we had the highest technical reading for about 50 years, RSI. And then you saw a classic FOMO behavior, people lining up to buy gold, So those massive lines there, the 2 days, the day before the high, bang, they're lining up chaotic numbers to, fear of missing out. It's just a classic, but you learn these things, all these classic omens there, and we're seeing it in the market. We're seeing breadth issues at the moment. We saw the other day, the market was up 2 days in a row, I think 200 points there. 80% of the S&P 500 stocks were negative on the day, yet the index was up. That's those sort of numbers haven't happened before. Those are reaching extremes.
That's a huge amount of heavy listing. So every one of those stocks that's up is carrying the index for 4 other ones that are down negative. That's it.
Yeah. So I think the top 10 accounts for like something like 40% of the S&P. So it's the heaviest weighting the top lot have actually had ever as well. But again, you see those omens at the tops all the time, so you see the same things occur over and over again. So that's why we're going to be super cautious here. That's why the airs come out of the market here. So just got to be careful there. Yeah.
Well, there are some great momentum trades in this list, and we'll have a look in a second. But as you're mentioning that, the first time that I was made aware of it was reading this book, Stan Weinstein's, and that opened my eyes to, hang on, we've seen this before. And he showed all the charts from the 70s, and I was like, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, that's so no matter which cycle you're in, I go back and read this book and go, yeah, we've seen that before. So That's why we're leaning on you to say, okay, you've seen this before, you've traded it before. Before recording, you were telling me about trading different market cycles, different peaks. So when we're looking at these charts, it'd be great if you could sort of share with us, okay, well, in this condition, you've traded these market conditions before. How would you adjust it? Because normally you'll tell us the setups, the volume analysis, all the things that we come to rely on you for.
Yeah.
But it'd be good to have that extra overlay too. So in the momentum leaders, what's the first chart that you're pulling out for us?
Number 2 there is NYR. But in terms of how would I trade it, I'd probably go no further than Minervini. So Minervini's, I'd consider him probably the GOAT of momentum trading. So one thing, he won't stop trading there. Oh, sorry. He will stop trading if the signals aren't working. So, but, first thing he'll do is start to scale down size. Second thing he does is look for smaller stops and smaller gains. And then thirdly, if the market really deteriorates, then he's in cash. So I'm not sure we're there yet. But we're definitely probably at that end of maybe starting to take smaller positions and maybe starting to aim for smaller gains or taking some off and moving the stop in the earlier. So that's probably the point we're at here, is that we're starting to get a few red flags here. So it's telling us to be a little bit more astute with our trading and being a little bit less aggressive. It's not green light environment here. I mean, the S&P, our index is actually made a false break and gone below the 50 now as well, I think. So we're now below the 50-day moving average, which is not great sign normally. Like the last
Statistically, we talk about this one all the time. It's a terrible place to be if you want a long trade.
Yeah. So it doesn't always mean that, it can always recover again. And we did recover in here, but sometimes when it doesn't recover, it can be pretty mean. So it's a dangerous position to be in if the index starts sort of breaking below there. So that's why we just got to be a little bit cautious there.
Okay.
NYR I thought was really interesting there because there's 2 things on here which were pretty interesting there. We saw a 52-week high, which we know for some of those smaller cap. If you are a small cap trader, I think that's one of the most significant things you'll see from a momentum point of view is seeing a 52-week high, basically seeing the stock go to a new high there. But we did see what we saw there was a nice little cup and handle under that, and then we burst out of the top here. So that was a pretty good sign there. We've got 2 classic signs there for smaller stocks, is that 52-week high and then the cup and handle, which we see in a lot of momentum names. So that was pretty interesting there. And there has been a few little cup and handles recently. I'm actually, for some reason, I've suddenly got a bit better at trading cup and handles. It's always one of the patterns I've struggled with, but I seem to be getting better because I've traded a few of them lately. But I thought SLX was an interesting one here because obviously this sort of, obviously that sector has been pretty robust, uranium energy. And wasn't probably one of the strongest names there, but it did sort of tighten up here and then have a little B wave break. But really, once it took off, once it broke that little B wave there, it has really sort of taken off. And again, we're sort of, that's a show of strength there. So breaking a swing high, breaking another swing high, and then breaking through the previous high there as well. So that's, most people are afraid to buy new highs, but that's what momentum traders are looking for. They're looking for a sign of strength. They're looking for it to break above previous high, break above a second high, break above an old high. So they're all signs of strength there. Quallamagie here, see how tight that is, held the 10. The thing is that you might have got shooken out of here. This might have actually, if this was me trading this, that might have had me out. Gapping through the 10 there, just because that had held the 10 before that and was looking really, really strong. So, but that's momentum trade as well. I mean, sometimes you put half of it in the 10, maybe half back at the 20. It depends on your rules and your process. But yeah, that's interesting sort of stock there because had a pretty good move. Weebit Nano I thought was pretty interesting as well. Again, it's sort of probably just breaking out to a new high. It's not 52-week high here, but we are sort of breaking out to new highs here. Again, that sort of show of strength. The whole thing just sort of sat on top of that little mini high there and then has gone again. You might better call this a little higher cup and handle, Chris, as well. So that's it's gone a little bit higher there and then pulled back to almost the old handle there, the old high. But yeah, it's been pretty strong. Look, that sector's been pretty robust across the board here. So yeah, that's the beauty of sort of
That
sticking.
one, yeah, Weebit was actually requested by some members this week, so good on them. Hopefully, getting their homework, and they found that cup and handle too.
The only thing you've got going there at the moment, and if you were to draw your what they call like the eclipse, like the rounding pattern there, you're now getting we are starting, we are still getting a parabolic. So that's the and look at the one thing I've suggested to some clients is that if they do get a parabolic stock, is start to look at what percentage you're away from the 50-day moving average, because we sort of know like this. Some of the really strong leaders there, once they start getting 30, 40, 45% away from the 50-day, that's getting that history sort of says that you're getting, you're getting elevated and you're getting,
That's extended.
pretty close to the peak. Yeah. So I know you got to stay with your winners and stuff there, but that would be sort of 360 here. So what, 540. So
when you're running those kind of returns, you got a good base, a good entry. You can keep this chipping and selling into heat. Is just dwindling down your position. You're taking off the table.
Like I think David Ryan would just, even if he was just chopping out 10 or 20%, he would just be cutting small parcels into that. So, but that is about 40. It's about 35, 40% away from that 50-day moving average, which tells us there that not many stocks
can sustain that.
Yeah, maybe a few this year have got to maybe sort of 40, 45%, but not many go past that. So you know here that you are getting at the end here. I mean, the good thing is it's still pretty, extended here. It's still not really showing any selling here yet. So this could go further here. Yeah. So, but yeah, you want to be sort of, the further you get away from this here, it's just got to be careful that, sort of see how these things extend in the past there. So, yeah. So interesting one, that one. Yeah. ATR.
Another requested one. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a nice little sort of cup and handle in here as well. Just probably sort of set up a sort of slightly lower sort of handle in there. But been kind of show of strength there, a bit small, but the whole thing did tighten up here and have a little bit of a B-wave break in here, which I thought was not a bad signal, and a little bit of a handle in here and coming through. And that's probably, even though it's under there, it is the highest close. So sometimes you want to sort of see, look at the highs and stuff there, but that would have been, when this day here would have been the highest close, that's the first time it's closed at that level. It's around that sort of 50-cent mark there. And look at the volume too. That was the first day we saw some volume come in. So, we're seeing strength, round off here and then come through the good volume there. So that would have been a show of strength there on that day, that close there, if you're watching this stock here. And then you could probably add to it on a break of the high as well. So, and again, this is what pros do. They add to the positions on strength. So, pretty decent move. It's had a big fall here. This is definitely one thing I've seen a lot, Chris. When I go through the list here, the quarterly list, we've seen, even today I looked at the biggest movers, and I'd say half the biggest movers are coming off a crunch. So they've had like a pullback to the 20 or 50, so quite a lot deeper than normal. And they're bouncing off that sort of deeper retracement there, which is sort of like, from a momentum point of view, that's not, when they come back, when they have a really, really deep pullback, that's not ideal from a momentum point of view. You want to sort of see that correction sort of sideways or stay nice and tight. You don't want to see that straight up and straight back down again. And, so I know a lot of people will be attracted to the stock that's gone up 200% and then it's pulled back 100, it pulls back, say 50%. Oh, we'll get back into that one. That's not the sort of best setup. It's like,
last season's closed at a discount.
Yeah.
I don't know.
History says that's not the best, to see that deep pullback. So just be careful trading some of those. I know some of them are working, but history says that's the dangerous pullback. You want to sort of see the more corrective, sideways orientated, or something a bit more time consuming as well. You don't want to see that. Like I noticed that, I'm not sure it's on the list here, but ARR, that was sort of one that came through a nice little cup and handle here. then took off. But look how deep it's come back here. People will probably think, oh, it's come back here, back to the 50, you know, jump in here. But just gotta be careful. That's 84 cents back to 44. It's halved.
No, they
10
that whole
days.
breakout away.
Yeah. So history says that's not the best buy. You know, you want to sort of see it congest, tighten up here, and you know, yeah. So that's what we're looking for. Gee, this one here, yeah, this one's on my radar for a while. I don't know why I didn't trade this actually. I sort of.
Well, I know why I didn't trade it. I've been monitoring Graphite. So if you go back over these Friday videos for the last 2 months, Graphite's been up there, and it's been on my short list, and I've been wanting to trade it. It's actually longer than 2 months. VCP, I want it, and then I went to trade this a few times, and just in the depths, I just couldn't. It's just not there.
So they actually topped up under. Look at that 40 cent mark there. The whole thing just tight. Just beautiful timing. And that was the block. When the volume profile, well, that volume profile was up, was nice, and then it pulled back, no volume. Volume profile pretty positive again. Pull back, no volume. Still no volume. Okay, it started to get a bit, a bit of a pop on the upside. Okay, pull back, no volume. Bit of volume this time. Starting to tighten up here. Low volume, low volume. Still okay volume, and then finally breaks through with a bit of volume on this day, new high. Even buying that, what's that? 41 cents on the close there. That would have been awesome.
Yep.
But on the close there, still great signal.
So me, that was just like VCP. Like, I want this. Look how it's behaving at the 50. Look at the volume. Like, you can see the little, like, each surge with the green bars down the bottom. It was beautiful. And Launchpad was showing that its peers were showing there's accumulation happening here. But the other one that's on the list in this same space, I think it's FGR. That was a request, was it?
FGR.
FGR.
SML? SM. FF. The Firefly metals. That was another one.
FGR. First graphene. FGR. It might not have been on the list, but it was in that same group. And I was just trading it on the ASX. There are only a couple of liquid ones, and some of them haven't performed. But it was seeing the behavior, and it's just seeing the same thing. The massive spikes, the big updates have big green volume down the bottom, and there's tight compression. It barely sells down, all the stuff that you talk about week after week. But these two, if you were able to trade these, comment below, because I want to hear about it, because I wanted it, I couldn't get it.
Yeah, a little slow, that one for me there. But it was funny. I was actually watching, someone was posting a few Quallamagie videos during the week, like some of him actually because you know how he's got the his, what do you call it, the cord there where he records himself.
Yeah.
So they're basically recording him talking about certain charts and certain setups and stuff there. But it was talking about stocks that are extended. It kind of made me think about PLS, because even though this, like, it was up here, it was looking extended here. It was sort of saying, I think the exact words was, higher lows are good. So we want to see higher lows. That's sort of continually a higher low, higher low, higher low, just another higher low, just another higher low. So sometimes that might positive extended there, but it's holding those higher lows there. It's in a strong position there. You just want to see those little retracements back here, hold them moving over. So it's obviously held the 20 here. So, but yeah, just nice and tight there. But yeah, that's had a pretty nice run here as well. And we're talking about PLS, obviously MIN. We've got a couple of clients that's held this longer than I have, but they've used they've just
swing lows.
Yeah, just lose the swing lows as the sort of as their sort of stop. They just kept edging it up here. So getting a little extended here now. There's probably starting to tighten up a little bit more, but been a pretty good move here. And you and I were just talking here. I mean, it's kind of the whole thing has done that sort of foldback technique from the low. So it's sort of like how it's come out of this low, it's hit that level, pull back, hit this level, little contraction, potentially could go up to this level here, so still might have a little bit more in it, so yeah, it's interesting, man. So that's the beauty of position trading. I sort of Caruso sort of tries to trade fewer names, but tries to stay in on longer rather than trying to trade more. I'm probably more a daily trader. I tend to trade a bit more actively, not sort of stay in the trade set, but it's definitely made me sort of think, it really to keep. Oh, just to sit here, yeah. So less kind of less work to be doing. I'm probably working my butt off trying to, so sometimes it's easier just to sort of stay with these stocks that are sort of trending there as well. But the last one there was FFM, Firefight, which, again, this has had a pretty good move as well. So it's sort of, again, it's sort of come out of this base here. It's sort of, had this little, there's that little ABC, little handle under the high, and then it sort of broke through. It did have a throwback, which would have knocked me out, but it did. Then it's recovered again. Again, broke below the 50, a bit messy here. Had a bit of a move here. This is probably the best setup I think in here, because then it's had a really good move here. Look at that volume profile, really strong, and then it pulls back here. A little A, B, C in here. So I like to sort of see the three ways. I like to see it hold the moving average, and I like to see it set on top of that previous high as well. So from a technical point of view, the structure, that to me was probably the best setup here. And then
the volume going up.
Yeah. So you might, something like that, I like to sort of wait for a sign of strength in there first. So maybe if I'm cheeky, I might buy like a 5% with a tight stop just underneath. But if I see a range break here, something breaking this range here, that's probably more likely to attract me to get a 10% position straight away. And then maybe it has a little jump here, then it eases back here, tries to, a little retest again, and then we're up the next day. So, that, again, that gapping up there, that's a show of strength there. That's probably time to add to it. So even though you probably add to an element jumps, and it has peeled back a few times, that's still the right time for me. That's what the pros will be doing. So, and this has moved on here. It's come back to the 20 again. It's moved on. It's still pretty tight. Still nothing wrong with this so far. So still looking pretty robust here. So, that's probably the best setup I could see. And there was that setup there. That was sort of it there. I think the only other one I had a question mark was that L1G, just because it did have a little bit of a VCP back into here. And then it did break a little B wave there. That was the only sort of setup that I sort of saw there. It looked pretty good.
Well, if we stay with the momentum, so we had a few requests from members. They get the list at the same time that Gary does. And most likely at home, they're marking up their charts. Hopefully they are. They're developing their charting eye, looking at these market leaders, and then kind of checking their homework with this video to see how their markups compare with, say, Gary's. And these ones he'll be doing on the fly because he hasn't prepared any notes for them. But we still have a couple here from requests. So AYA, a name we've seen many times before. How's that looking?
Yeah. Look, it's held the 20 here. That's been had a little twinkle down here, but that's sort of held the 20 through here, being pretty robust. So, it's had a pretty good momentum there. Some people might say I'm going to use the 10 there, but it's, it's crossed the 10 a few times before. I think the 20 is a better move there. So I think as long as it holds the 20, I'll probably still stay with it there. It's, again, see how that
4 to 3.
Yeah, so you're looking at, that's got the $4 and the moving at, and the 50-day moving's at 240. So you're probably looking at about 40%. So I just think anytime you see your stock 40% away from the 50-day moving average, you should sell some. I just think it's even 35 to 40%. Just make that, you're just not going to see that all the time. It means you've got a good trade. If you get to that point, you got a great trade on. And I think you should take a little portion off into that type of heat if you see that sort of move there. That's just observation that I've but this stage is still sort of had that one day selling there, big range. The next day was a little heavier, so you sort of had 2 days of selling, so that's probably just a little bit of a warning. So, but so far it's held the 20, so you should still be, from a momentum point of view, even Quallamagie would probably be still in this, because he would sort of say the 20 still probably the way to go, and that's a pretty healthy volume profile for her as well. So still pretty good. Got a little light here at the end. But yeah.
Let me
just
next one on the list is CUF, CUF. So Mineral Explorer, they are in lithium, copper, iron ore, gold, niobium, so rare earth metals.
Yeah, pretty small here. It's always tricky with those sort of smaller names there. So, yeah, and because of the smaller names, each tick is a big percentage. So, giving yourself,
I kind of trade.
yeah. So sort of, so in this case, look how far the 20-day moving average is back at 3.3. That's a long way away. So that's a lot to give up. So that's why I would probably win. So far, it's held the 10 the whole time. So I would be not wanting to see it close below the 10 here, just because that's been a pretty decent move here. So we could keep going here, but that would be my, that's just too far away. You're giving too much back here. You're giving a third of your profit away. That's just too much.
And SKK, so the revamp of the old dough, changing the focus from business being to direct to consumer to business to business now.
Yeah, this is, they had a reasonably large correction there. Did sort of cut the MAs, and let's cut them again here. But that kind of tells me that sometimes when they do that, Chris, that's sort of more of a, like if it's sort of held there and taken off there and gone through, you possibly can keep going, but it's kind of looking like it might just sort of square off here. It might just go through a sideways consolidation there. That volume profile was pretty good coming out of the low here. So that's the plus there. It's funny how that's a down day and it's got a green volume by for some reason. I'm not sure, probably because it's up on the, even that jumped up and then, yeah. But it's, but that's probably a day of selling for mind here. So yeah, but definitely one to keep an eye on. Have explosive event. Maybe it's like, it stays tight in here, holds this level here longer term, and go again.
We got another one in lithium, US lithium space. So IR1 with rare earth elements. I think they're talking about they've got one of the only. Let's see if I can pronounce this one correctly. Rubidium production.
Yeah,
that's what they're after.
Yeah, a little gappy sort of heap previously there, but it's probably got less gappy because the sector's on fire. So and more traders are in there, so it's getting, which is good, adds a bit of liquidity and stuff in there. But there's so far that's probably the 20-day moving average there. If I was long some of that, I'll probably use that as my stop there. I know it's still a fair drop here, but that's, you got to give these room sometimes. You just don't know how far they can run. So that's up underneath where you should be. So yeah, so can keep going here, but probably the 20-day would be sort of where we're looking at there. You're not seeing too much sort of heavy selling in here really. So yeah.
And around out the lithium GL1, so global lithium, Western Australia and the Goldfields region.
Yeah, nice little VCP in here. Whole thing tightened up here. Nice little B-wave break in here. Really good volume break on this day here, the 9th of October. Good heavy volume through that. All that nice juicy volume profile. That's definitely looks pretty good. Still haven't seen, 1 day of selling. That's it. 2 days up. Very light selling it today. Still nothing wrong with this so far. So yeah, still pretty good.
Nice. Well, as we move into the Launchpad, that's where we're looking to see the different dynamics. And interestingly, the Wednesday report that you and I were talking about at the start and that members got and the 2 p.m. update for their momentum profile update, when we saw that fall off a cliff, we actually saw a different shift happening as well. And this is where we start to lean more into the Launchpad. So we know what the market leaders are. They've got momentum. We've just covered that. These are the ones gaining momentum. And we've seen a bit of a flick up at the same time we saw that market regime roll over. It all sounds rather complicated, but what it is that this can be the time where we start to focus more on Launchpad. So what stood out to you in this week's Launchpad, Gary?
Nothing really stood out to me. That's just a bit of a mix in there. I did see a few other trades there. It's a little choppier than we've seen. So I don't know if it's as clean as we have seen lately. I don't know whether that's my personal bias because a few of those trades I got stopped out on by when they took off. So, but a little choppier than yeah. And look, I'm probably trying to be risk averse at the moment, so I kind of keep things pretty tight. But it's good. It's protected my bacon a few times, but it's also I've missed a couple of trades by being too tight here as well. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, So protect the capital all the time. Maybe you're too tight. Don't give yourself chance to win. It's yeah, I just definitely felt like I've you know, some weeks you get a bit of, there's like someone's put a curse on you. That was kind of this week for me. So I had a few things that trades, if it didn't go away, got stopped out. I had a few winners that I picked from a group, and I could have picked some other stocks in that same group, and the ones I didn't pick had bigger moves, and the ones I did pick, and some of the stocks I was long had some great moves, but I got knocked out by the smallest of ticks. So I was like, oh, that after that, it's like everything's, even the good trades are heavy. And yeah, and my winners, they should have been bigger, you know, and that's, yeah. So I was just like, yeah, it's one of those weeks. Yeah. So it sounds funny. This week I've actually probably reduced my positions back. I think I had too many positions on. So maybe you're not watching them too much on time. So it's the momentum trading. Obviously, you're trying to be more concentrated and focus on those. So that's probably the only thing I can kind of put it down to. But sometimes it's just bad luck, Chris. You sort of, you know, stocks will pull back and knock you out and then go. Other stocks, if you left too much room, you're going to take a bigger loss. I did, you know, so I was just I got a lot of haircuts this week. So that's just trading. It's just the nature of trading there. And then the only thing for me, I've just probably just simplified a little bit back here. But I thought LKO was interesting there because it's sort of a newer name as well. And there's a few newer names that are sort of done similar, where they've been pretty volatile, but then they do tighten up at some point and then give you a bit of there was a little bit of a VCP in here. The whole thing did tighten up and just break above the 50-day moving average there. But it's all been, you know, it's pretty choppy here as well, pretty messy. So it's been a bit of a loose stock here so far. So that was the only sort of tight phase in here. So just something to be mindful of there. But I think it was not triple T, I think it was TT. Yeah, this is that's a new stock as well. See how loose that's been? I've just noticed quite a few of the IPOs here have been swinging around pretty wildly. So, yeah, there's a couple of okay setups in there, but not really, you know, getting pops and then drops, you know. So that's one thing I'm sort of noticing a lot more. Some of still getting some moves here, but getting some move backs as well. AUB was sort of one of those ones that had that show of strength. Probably call this potential little undercut there. Had this little undercut there. Looked like it might have been the undercut, but then it's come back again, and then it's come through here. But yeah, it's funny this trade here. I sort of noticed this quite a lot this year, where we've seen show of strength and then a consolidation phase, and then it just comes out of the gates. Like it just doesn't
give you no opportunity to get set.
It doesn't give it too much, you know. Yeah, it's occasionally get a little B wave in there, but yes, some of the moves that have come out of these consolidations back they've just come out so fast and so hard. They're tricky to trade.
There are a lot. So I trade end of day, and yeah, there's so many that are, well, if I didn't cycle and surf during the day, they probably could have been at the desk and got them.
Yeah. But no, it's hard. Some of them are just moving out so fast. They're not really setting up structurally and then going. They're just coming out the gate. So probably almost a little bit EP driven. So news flow there will sort of tend to drive there. So it does. I was thinking this week here that if you just bought stocks that put out good news, you would have killed it in the last month. You would have actually, just because those good news have actually driven a stock. And I don't know if it's lower liquidity or what it is, but it's just fueled the stocks there coming through. So there's been a lot of that EP sort of driven. I don't know if I'd call them game-changing announcements, but just really good, solid announcements have probably had the effect of what a game-changer announcement had been in the past, where you're seeing a significant change in the business has caused a big jump. Even just a semi-positive announcement has been really positive for the market because the market's so frothy.
I've been putting that down to the signal strength and the momentum profile, because the signal strength is telling us the probability of finding a company going up 10% was north of 15%. So if you've got 100 companies, 15 of them are going to go up 10% a month.
Yeah.
That's now fallen back to 3% after Wednesday. But if we do that, and then, as you said, the last month, we've just been making new high after new high on the momentum profile. So if I put those two together, I'd say that Like the market was hot. It was just craving news and an excuse for something to pop up. So that's what the numbers were telling me, and it's definitely showing up in those. But what's next on the
Yeah, GYG's interesting there because it's it does have a bit, although it's pretty messy, it does have a 0, 1, 2, 3 there, a bit of a base building there. So it is building a few higher lows in there. And I've sort of absorbed a lot of there. And it is that it isn't that growth, like a lot of these stocks have done pretty well. It's funny, if you follow Chipotle in the States, it is just gone. So I was last night, well, I think it was a pretty big hit. But yeah, maybe Goodman Gomez is going to slot in there. I'm not sure, but it's it is a growth stock. I know it's on a big multiple, but they always are. Dominance was always on a big multiple, so definitely one to sort of keep an eye on here. Maybe I think if the market does turn it negative here, growth start to get a bit crunched a little bit. Maybe it's sort of one that maybe it'll build a bigger base. I'm not sure, but it's definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on here because it does have a chance to sort of have some sort of strong growth there. NCK there, Nick Scully there, obviously a bit of an EP there during the week. So, relative strength pretty strong there, stay pretty tight there. No real B-wave break here, kind of got through. So, basically you could have bought this on this update there, positive news. That was one little signal there. Domino's is sort of one that sort of hurt me. I was trying to, I think I mentioned this last week. I'd sort of bought some of this. What was it?
Yeah, we were questioning your 50-day moving average.
It was
over it when I bought it.
It was at the A+ setup here, but it was nice and tight here. There was good volume profile and nice and tight here. So it did give me a low risk entry. But yeah, this day here shook me out of my position by the smallest of margins, unfortunately for me. So that's just
really roller on there. We were recording the Tuesday recording at the time. Yeah. What's going on? The thing went up like 10% in about 1 minute.
Yeah.
Takeover speculation.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, just tucked down and broke that 10 by like a fair margin. And then swung back. So I think it's down about 30, 40 cents on that day. Yeah, it's funny. I literally just tightened up that morning because it's been sort of ticking higher. So I thought I'd just give myself a couple of days range in there. Yeah, because I sort of figured it gone sort of 6 up and then sort of 4 or 5 sideways. It should go another 6 up just by my reckoning. So, so we're 6 up today. So this should have been the day that I'd probably take it off, but it didn't work out. EVT was one that's, kind of, this is sort of in that, has been a bit of a growth stock there. It's in quite a few growth portfolios, but it had a pretty decent pullback here. But it has sort of bounced out of that there. So it's probably just one to keep an eye on there.
Especially because all that range and sit tight.
Yeah, but exactly. We just sort of comes back here. It just might get a bit more time here. You want to sort of see something like this in February, jumps out and then does this little consolidation, this little sort of bull flag type of thing. That's what you're looking for there. SGM was actually one that I did sort of see there. It had reasonable pullback there. It's just one of those stocks that was actually, be looking for that little B-wave break here. It did break out on this day here, but it didn't break the 50. It was still under the 50. And then it sort of did pinch back in here a couple of days, pretty light volume, which I thought was an okay sign there. And then it did come through on this day here, I think on the 20th of October. Gave a bit more retreat on pretty good volume. That was probably almost confirmation there that it's ready to go here. So definitely there's a few stocks that have shown a bit of strength. That's that's coming back more than the 50% level, Chris, which is not, but we're just not seeing, we're not seeing signals much better than this lately. So we're just not seeing the high, not seeing you in the top half, not seeing them square off, not seeing them high as, we're just not getting A-class signals at the moment. That's the reality. BRG was sort of, again, sort of similar. That's had a reasonable pullback there. A little bit of a B-wave break in there, breaking and swinging high, but again, it's come back pretty deep. Not the best signal, but maybe the market's going to get a bit looser here. We've definitely seen those bigger moves up and down. So, I say Minervini would just be adjusting his risk. taking the profits a little earlier than it normally would be. MTO is one there has been pretty strong this year, been a bit of a leader. Did have a pullback there, stayed pretty tight. Did break that little B wave there, I think, on the 17th. Yeah. So it is funny, this market here, see how we're breaking that B wave. I think the last probably, there's about 5 or 6 B wave breaks in here. And the first day it breaks, it'll tend to come back the next 2 days and just absorb that level. So it's not like I think in the market previously, if you break swing high, you just go, just take off. Whereas we're definitely doing throwbacks there. So it kind of tells me now sort of maybe be a bit more patient with your entry as well. We're just getting a few little throwbacks there. So that's the market we're in there. That's
really good insight. I like that. That's a good insight because it is a huge change in the market dynamic as to how much wind we've seen come out of it or air out of the tires, as you were saying. So that's a good insight into the entries.
I was going to say, like sometimes the momentum traders they're buying those breakouts, but then the market gets a little bit weaker. What they're going to try and do is actually wait for the stocks to come back in congest and pull back to the moving averages, and then try and maybe trade smaller, but try and get them on the pullbacks and stuff like that. So, just to adjust to how hot the market is or how hot it's not, I guess. Yeah.
And for me, that's the market regime telling us, no, the probability is not there. So I'll wait for the reload. I'll wait for the retest. I'll wait for the throwback and I'll get the right risk reward ratio I'm after. The Launchpad requests, we've still got a few, and some of them are names that you've covered so many times before, but we'll start off with RFG, Romeo Foxtrot Golf.
Yeah. It's such a strong downtrend there. Not a great stock here. It's hardly, retail food group is not really a momentum winner in terms of earnings and profile. So it's hard to sort of see how this is
sort of lagging within its fruit.
Yeah. Well, how's it gonna, it's not gonna be. I mean, there's that sort of, if we're looking at the can slim element to momentum trading, this is not going to meet any of those criteria, unfortunately. So it's been disappointing there. So you're going to see these counterbalances there. And the one thing we'd noticed there was stocks that have got so much overhead, even when they will have bounces, but then as soon as they finish, the sellers just step in because there's so many losers. Like everyone who's bought this in the last year is underwater here, and they're underwater substantially. So it's just going to be hard to make it ahead here. That's why it needs time here. Like I've been watching Mesa Blast, even Mesa Blast there. It's starting to, like, this has got a few years of losers behind it. So it's had a pretty good run this year, but you can see the pullbacks. The pullbacks are pretty sizable. But eventually, if enough time passes, well, all the losers who have been shaken out from 4 or 5 years ago, they'll be all gone. And then now we're in a position where, so the last, say, 2 or 3 years, everyone who's bought it is now on the winning side. And now we'll sort of start to be a bit firmer. So it kind of like the dynamics will change over time for a stock if it can stay firm here, so.
The only thing I'd say about RFG is that who knows, it could end up being like dominoes because there's a bit of volume accumulation. There's solid candles in a weak market. It's either that or institutions are getting set for, they got to rotate the capital somewhere. There's the things that are popping out to me with RFG. But
the classic thing is that the dogs are barking at the end of the bull market, which is often the case. We go back and sort of see there because I noticed that Appen had a little mini bounce before it got shot. I think BrainChip had a little mini bounce before it got shot too. So you're going to see the dogs that have been struggling here, they're going to have that last little rally, at the end of the third. So it's funny, I've seen all those names, even Theta as well, which has been, that's had a bit of a nice rally here as well. So some of these,
I like that consolidation.
Yeah, it's like that's probably one of the better ones who one of the dogs who are underwater, but it's still, you've seen a lot of the dogs have been barking here. Yeah, which is again another omen, what we normally sort of see at the end of these sort of bull phases.
Boss Energy. So that's on the list.
Yeah.
Covers uranium a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting here because I think it actually made a false break here. I'm not wrong. It's 157. Maybe it actually was 150. Oh, okay. Just a double bottom there. Not that I love double bottom. I'd love to see it go to a new low there. But yeah, it did have, after disappointing the market and getting hammered, it did have an update which was positive for the stock. So yeah, still a bit underwater, not the strongest of those names. So again, history tells us not to trade the laggard, trade the strongest one. So trade the Paladin or the Deep Yellow, which has probably definitely been stronger here than that runner. So yeah, saying that, that's had a fair drop as well. Yeah. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, just trade the strong. That's the, history tells us to don't trade the weakest one, don't trade the laggard, trade the
ladies.
Yeah.
29M, 29 metals.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure to think of that, to be honest. Yeah,
pretty wild and wide.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Whippy.
I don't know, it's from, but yeah, look, the whole thing is sitting on top of the previous high. So that still leaves it in a position where it could go to a new high. So that's the plus, because that's sort of like, if you're looking about trend structure, you want to sort of see it sit on top here. So that's like a little ABC there, but it's a little large. That's a little bit of a large correction, but that's probably, again, that's an overhang of all this overhang. We know when there's so much overhead buying, so many traders in losing positions for the last few years, that anytime it have a really strong run, the pullbacks are going to be deeper than normal. They're not going to be sideways corrective. They're going to be a little deeper. So yeah, but this could go to a new high there just because it has sat on top of that sector there, and the sector's the whole sector's pretty buoyant as well. So we know that Stan Weinstein will say if you have two charts in different sectors, you trade the one with the hottest sector, and that is a hot sector at the moment. So that's plus.
It's a good book of his. HCH. So hot chili.
Yeah. I didn't just because sort of come back to uncut the 50. Look, the trend's still pretty robust there, but I don't know, it's not the most sort of trending cleaner sort of stock there. It's a little bit choppy in its nature there. It's just not a great setup for me. But look, the trend's still pretty robust there. That was the largest correction of the move, Chris, so far. The last pullback off the high, which is probably the negative there. If you want to, one of the things McLaren used to talk about was having uniform corrections, and you sort of see it. Stocks will get looser at the bottom, or get looser at the top in terms of volatility. So that move there, that 111.5 down to 84, that's bigger than any correction of the whole move so far. So that's the negative. You don't want to see that bigger, deeper correction there, because then that's what we've referred to as overbalance of the trend. So if you overbalance the trend, one thing you do is you're either going to make your first lower high, or you might make a marginal new high. But it does often signal a consolidation phase if you get an overbalance.
And before we get to the last chart, there will be a question I've got for viewers at the very end. But MP1, Megaport.
Yeah, I did see this. It's sort of, is it tightening up here? Is a VCP in there? Possibly. It's a little loose, a little bit volatile. That's the negative there. Is that it's yes, it is a VCP, but it's quite a volatile VCP. Pretty late in the stage here. That's the negativity there. So
it is a spring. So that mid-October low where it sort of retested, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 days it failed to sort of really penetrate the 1450 level. Yeah, it didn't do it with huge volume, so it kind of it helped.
I'm not going to make a recommendation here, but my best guess is that because it's gone to a new
marginal high.
That's a strong recovery there. That's the sort of the basketball under the water, sort of that strength. So then it bursts here. That pulls back. It then goes to a marginal new high again. It pulls back again. So this might be a little 1 thrust, 2 thrust. We might get that sort of overlapping. That's what they call like the broadening top. So you can get like a margin new high, second margin new high, third margin high. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say this could go to like, say, 1720, 1750, make that third overlapping top there. But that's not, that setup is not particularly bullish. I mean, that's a bit of that's an overlapping top sort of setup. So,
Tightening pattern. That's not a
yeah, and
long.
still it's loose as well here. So I mean, look, if you're long here, you'd be happy if you stay long here because it probably should go up here. But just got to be careful. This is getting loose here. That's not the ideal setup there. You want to sort of see that tight phase rather than loose phase here.
And so the viewers who are still watching, I've got a question for you, which is hopefully by this stage, you're really developing that charting eye. You're committed to your trading, you're getting better, and you're using Gary's insight and hopefully your own marking up of the charts to develop that skill set, that confidence with the trading and the setups. So my question for you is, could you please comment below and let us know where you get the most value out of these videos? What is it that really helps you the most and helps you see through this whole video to get enhancing your trading, improving it, whatever it might be? Who knows? It might be Gary's humor and good looks. I'm not sure, but let us know. You got a final chart there for us, do you?
Oh no, I just thought, yeah, this is a nice little chart there. Again, just had that big burst, big volume, and then the whole thing is tightened up again. So that's that sort of classic VCP sort of, show of strength, and then the whole thing. And we use up a bit of time here. It is in that AI space, quite an interesting company. The downside risk is it's still pretty small, doesn't have a lot of cash, Chris, which is always a bit of a worry because it's only about 3.5 million in cash there. So, the founders, owners, insiders would love to get the stock up, raise some money, bring it back, so that's the downside risk of that, but really interesting segment, interesting sector. It's got the profile that we know that we look for. But yeah, just too small for me, but I thought that was an interesting sort of stock as well. I noticed CRN had a pretty good update yesterday. And this is kind of one of those classic setups that we've sort of seen that strength there, pull back here, gone back up to near the high again, and then pull back again. And sometimes this is a setup there when they, because this volume profile is big as well. So it's got that accumulation type of look about it. I know the price is down a bit, a lot of overhead, but it does have that appearance there. So just that's kind of going to be way break here as well, just today, actually. That's happened actually after we've gone to air here because it was this morning, it wasn't there. I did buy a little bit of this yesterday on the close just because I thought I saw this late. I thought, oh, this is how a lot of those names have sort of come out. They've had that strength of consolidation phase. And I thought I'll actually add to this if it breaks. Those are the ones that are sort of kicked on there. So, but I had a pretty positive update. And it's like, that's what's been working. If you're in a sector which is pretty buoyant and you have good news coming out, and so it tends to sort of flow the stock here. So, we're all simple creatures here. We just want to know the company's doing well, and then everyone buy it. But that's one that I thought was interesting there. And I guess the other one I was looking at was that Mesa Blast. I thought that was really interesting as well because that's had a really, again, I know there's a lot of overhead, pretty volatile sort of share here, but it has had. I did trade this little cup and handle in there underneath the high. It was pretty light handle, and it came out. It was a pretty good move, but it's had a fairly decent pullback. But the whole thing has come back to this little last mini high there. Volume's kind of dried up, and it's come back to the 50-day moving average. So if it could be a position of interest there, it's still pretty early, not awesome, but solid. But it needs to sort of hold here. So next couple of days here, we can kick out of here, might be right there, but it's had some good news here, Mesa Blast. That biotech sector, I think healthcare, energy are probably the three sectors I think look interesting here at the moment. I've sort of shown a little bit of strength here in the last couple of weeks. So, whereas a lot of sectors are still pretty negative. So, but yeah, I think some of those energy names are worth a look as well because they sort of had a bit of a burst out of the low, now sort of pulling back. Woodside's had a bit of a burst there, but not much of a pullback there, so not showing too much weakness. I think BPT's had a bit of a pullback and getting pretty shallow so far. So you're nice to sort of see these a bit more time consuming come back a bit more to maybe another moving average, but that's definitely a sector I'd keep an eye on as well here because that was they did hit the Launchpad last week pretty hard, stocks. So that's about it, really. Just remember, momentum traders, cash is a position. So if we're not getting good A-class setups, which I don't think we are, then it's okay to hold cash there. And if you're getting a bit loose, like I was there last week, probably too many positions on, and trading sort of seems to be getting away from you. I think I've sort of narrowed it down this week, and I feel with fewer positions on, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable and confident with what I'm doing. I think sometimes when there's so much happening, you got a bit of that, bit of that, bit of that. It's sort of, you can get a bit lost by having too many positions as well. So that's the beauty of the concentration, is you can kind of concentrate your efforts on what you're seeing on those sort of setups you are in. But just remember, cash is definitely a position. If the momentum setups do sort of start to dry up a little bit there, then you really need that patience to sort of sit and wait for those A-class setups. You'll still get some good setups here, you just won't get as many. But if you're you're trading in the B class, you might miss the A-class setup, which does come along here. Not quite as frequently as it was in the last month, but you'll still get some good A-class setups here ahead. Just probably get less, that's all.
Well, I'll take that insight into the weekend and reflect on it a lot. Thank you, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.